Ramon, we are live on the World Wide Web, buddy. It's exciting.
Dude, this is amazing that we're having a conversation across the country. It's pretty amazing.
That's right. You're in sunny California. I'm in Georgia here, and so it's going to be a fun broadcast, guys. I'm Pete from Crunch Time Coaching, and I'm so glad that you made the decision to join us today. You've made a very smart decision by joining Ramon and myself, because today is going to be a lot of fun. First of all, if you don't know Ramon Osa, oh no, hold on.
Oh, did it crap out?
I got to pause myself out there, guys. I apologize. It's a little bit of feedback, but Ramon is a very, very fun and positive instructor. It's one of the reasons why I had him on today, because like me, Ramon, you can get a little goofy, right?
Dude, I try to avoid anything serious at all costs, except when it comes to learning how to hit the ball better. Yeah, absolutely.
That's what I like about you. Tennis is a fun sport, and I think that we should enjoy it more. It unfortunately is not rocket science. My girlfriend, she is about to graduate medical school, and she definitely proves to me every day how smart she is, and how I'm not the smartest.
Dude, that's crazy. And I feel the same. My wife is like a commercial real estate, like mogul, and she blows me away every day. And I just pretty much, the only thing I have over her is tennis. She got into tennis. That's how we got together. And so I can kind of throw some fancy words at her and confuse her a little bit. But
there you go. There you go. The kinetic chain.
Unfortunately, it's not that complicated, and when you make it simple, it's a lot of fun.
Yeah. So guys, today we're going to be covering the 5 myths about the backhand that holds people back from playing their best tennis and transforming their backhand. So it's going to be really great stuff. Now, again, if you've never heard of me, some of the people may be out there and don't know who I am. I'm Peter Freeman from Crunch Time Coaching. I live here in Atlanta. I love to teach tennis, both on the court and online. In fact, so many of my lessons that end up online are from aha moments I have with my students. So it's a lot of fun. I'm a USPTA elite professional, and my YouTube channel has been named top 10 instruction channels in the world by lessons.com. And we have Ramon from Osa Tennis 360, and you live in California, beautiful California, with your wife, Raquel, and your girl's name again is, I'm sorry?
Kaylin. We call
Kaylin.
We call her Bunga. One day I came out from the door and she was hiding behind the door, scared the hell out of me, and screamed Bunga at the top of her lungs. So that's how she got that nickname. But
that's a good nickname. Now, how old is Bunga?
She just turned 7 and she's going on 13. It's crazy.
Wow. That's a cute age. That's a cute age. Now, she play tennis at all?
I'm taking kind of the slow approach with her. I've seen a lot of parents get the kids out there and, they're out there with the bucket of balls and perfecting the forehand. So I pretty much take her out, let her whack the ball around, have a great time. And slowly but surely, she's starting to take some interest in learning how to hit the ball the right way. So the master plan is working.
There you go. Good deal. So tell us a little bit about how you got started online here. I got my dog barking.
Yeah, so it was kind of reluctant. I started tennis at 16, and I wasn't like a lot of these guys. Like, some of the guys you hear, they've been playing since they were 4, former pros, played Division I college. I started when I was 16 I was just telling you, Pete, before we got on the call, literally 0 natural athletic ability at all. And pretty much just got out there because it was a way to lose weight. As a kid, I was 50 pounds overweight, 0 confidence, none of that stuff. And I found tennis is like, man, it's an amazing way to work out, have a great time, and pretty much just started playing every day. And that's how I got into tennis. But when it came to teaching online, I got to a point where there were too many people coming in for lessons, and I was like, man, I can't sustain 40 hours on the court every week. It's pretty brutal. So I figured, well, why not figure out a way to kind of get the knowledge out as far as I can, and online seemed like the best way to do it.
Well, very cool. Well, your channel's a lot of fun, very creative videos. I watch a lot of them, and so you're doing a great job. And so today, Ramon is going to reveal these 5 kind of myths on the backhand, these beliefs that people have kind of accepted and taken on their backhand that holds them back. And if you stick around to the end today, we also have bonus free training on the backhand. One thing that's kind of cool is I'm covering the one-handed backhand. And I know a lot of people on my list have said, hey, Pete, when are you going to get around to the two-handed backhand? I had just come up with so much content and I still have not gotten there. So I'm kind of excited that you're going to be able to train them on the two-handed backhand. Again, this is bonus free training if you stick around to the end. And before we begin, I want to tell you what you can expect on today's call. After watching today's video, you're going to have a clearer picture of the tools that you do need and the tools that you don't need to go out there and improve your backhand performance. So if that sounds good to you, congrats, you're in the right place at the right time. Also, let me explain who this is not for. People who expect to just watch today's video and improve right from watching today's video.
I wish we could do that, by the way.
I wish
there was like some matrix program that we could just download into our brains and magically have an awesome backhand. But you know, you're right. It doesn't work that way. So
yeah. Now visualizing and hearing the instruction that we're going to have for you in the bonus, now that actually can improve your backhand, is where you really watch things and you really study and go, okay, yeah, I see if I do that, my backhand will get better. But you know, the magic happens when you take the instruction that we're giving you and you go out on the court and you apply it. And this calls also not for the skeptics who just are flat out, they don't believe that they can improve by watching things online and they don't believe improvement's possible for them. We want you to have an open mind. We want you to be excited about this. So hopefully that's fair for everybody. So we're going to begin. So Ramon, again, before we get into these 5 myths today, tell us about, you told us a little bit about your journey as far as how you got into tennis, but I wanted to ask you specifically about how your backhand developed and where you kind of went on that whole thing. Because I think we almost have opposite stories, which is kind of interesting, which I'll share. So go ahead.
Yeah, and I'll keep this mercifully short because I know people, despite what I think, would love to hear my story, probably are more focused on what we can provide for them. But basically, to keep it short, my backhand was always my liability. You know, like I said, I started tennis at 16. And I think for whatever reason, and we'll talk about this a little bit later, you know, we pick up a tennis racket, we want to just whack the ball over the net. And normally, you know, we kind of just gravitate towards the forehand because that's what we like the best. That's what, you know, feels the most natural. So for me, it was very much a product of, I got to a point where, you know, I was playing okay, but eventually I started playing better players that just were able to hit it to my backhand. And I was tired of losing to these guys that I knew that I should be beating. And so I kind of started to seek out some really good teachers. And really, like you, Pete, I started with one hand, or you started with two hands, actually, right?
I started with a two-hander.
Right. Okay. So I started with one, and I gravitated to two because I had this friend Josh, who I'm still trying to get one day. You know, this guy is so good, and he could serve so fast. And he would hit it into my two-handed backhand or my one-handed backhand, and I was just not able to contact the ball out in front and hit a good shot. So I kind of decided to learn a two-hander, and kind of took that process. Became a long process that really had a lot of bumps and bruises along the way because I didn't really have a clear blueprint like you're going to get today in this call. So I started practicing like crazy. Went through a lot of kind of trials and tribulations, and eventually discovered some really great teachers that kind of showed me a lot of cool stuff that I've put together in a system. But so that's pretty much how it went. You know, after a lot of balls flying over the fence and a lot of balls hitting the top of the frame, I was able to kind of figure it out and make it a lot more fun. So
that's very cool. Yeah. I'm the opposite. I think a lot of people too, who've played tennis for a long time, they always look at the other side and go, you know what, maybe I'd be a little bit better if I switched. So yeah. And, during junior tennis, I played with a two-handed backhand. College, I played two-handed backhand. But as I got into teaching, I would always have, you know, like a handful of balls. So I started to develop a pretty good one-hand slice. And then occasionally when I get out and be able to play for myself, my two-hander started to feel more and more foreign. So in about my early 30s, I said, you know what, let me actually try and switch to the one-hander. It looks so pretty. It looks like it'd be a fun project for me. I'm not going to go to Wimbledon or anything like that. I'd like to see something in my game actually improve. Even if it's if I'm starting out from ground zero, I can only get better. So I was actually excited about the process, and now I love my one-hander. So it is definitely something, a shot you can develop after hitting a ton of balls, either with another type of backhand or hitting it the wrong way. If you start to focus on the right things, you can actually kind of start from scratch. So that's kind of the message from there. And Barkley wants us to get into the content. He's like, all right, get into the content.
Is he barking?
No, he's not barking. He's the best.
He's awesome.
We love Barkley, but he says it's time to get into these 5 myths. So take us to the first kind of belief, the limiting belief that we have. What's number 1 on the list?
So I'll tell you, I was thinking about this a lot. I was like, what are the thoughts that, some of you may be listening to this call and you're like, maybe these are floating around in your head. And, a lot of these have literally been told to me by a lot of students of mine. So I put these together. So number 1 is it's too late. Right? It's maybe you're in your 40s or your 50s, and I don't know about you, but for the longest time, there was this thought floating around that like once you hit the age of 8, it was literally impossible to learn anything new. And I remember as a kid, hearing, well, you're starting at 16, it's probably you're not going to get very good. It takes a lot of learning, and if you're not doing it in the early stages, there's just no hope. So first of all, if that thought is floating around in your head, I've got good news, because there's recently been a published article in PubMed, which is like this widespread medical journal, that says that neurogenesis, which is when the neurons are formulating in your brain, literally happen until the day we die, which is crazy. So that means we're forming new synapses every day, and there's no limit to what your brain can physically learn. So that's one thing, which is great. And like I said, I was 16. I had no natural athletic ability at all. Pretty much was self-taught for the majority of the beginning years, and then later down the road was able to develop a pretty sweet two-handed backhand, which is great. So, and I want to tell you a story, because, I had a couple of friends who came to me later in life, or early, depending on the way you look at it. One of his names was Jay, and Jay was 76 years old. I was telling you about this, Pete. And this guy came to me, and he was a pitcher in baseball. And he said, I've always loved tennis. I've always wanted to really excel in tennis, and I would like to learn how to hit a kick serve. And this was a fun project for me, because I had never taught anybody who at this stage in the game decided they want to develop this shot. So we got together, and literally for 6 weeks, we met 3 times a week, and we went through a progression that we'll talk about a little bit later, that just kind of systematically stacks skills on top of skills, so that you gradually get the whole picture and you start to hit the shot that you want to hit. And by the end of 6 weeks, this guy who's 76 years old was able to hit a kick serve with pretty amazing consistency. So if you're sitting at home and you're thinking, well, I'm in my 50s, or I'm in my 60s, or maybe you're even in your 30s or 40s, you can absolutely develop whatever you want to develop, including a backhand, provided that you have the right blueprint and you're doing the exercises in a systematic and a predictable way, and you're really focusing on the right things. Had another friend, Sean, who I get to hit with every day, lives out in Encino. If you've ever seen the movie Friday the 13th with Jason, he's the guy who created that, and he is a tennis nut. I mean, this guy is out on a ball machine every day. And when we first started hitting, he's like, you know what, I want to learn to hit the ball the right way. And he's really gruff, and he's got a great sense of humor. And he literally, we would just get together every day, and we would work on kind of developing that modern forehand. And once that became really solid for him, he's like, you know what, Ramon, this is great, but I don't really have a backhand. He was kind of bunting at the ball. He was kind of jabbing at it. So we started to work on a backhand slice. And now, like, we play doubles every other weekend or so, and he is just knifing that thing. It's staying nice and low, and it's pretty awesome to watch. So it's definitely a possibility. And what do you think, Pete? What do you say about people who think it might be too late for them?
Well, absolutely. I think actually, and I'm coming up with a series pretty soon on this, where I think one of the biggest injustice that we've done as tennis coaches, not everybody, but certainly a lot of them, is that we kind of think, okay, once people are over 40, certainly once they get to 50s, 60s, 70s, and even up to 80s, like we just go to the 1970s playbook for them in their lesson. You know, like we're gonna save the modern stuff for the kids. They're young enough, they can handle it. You know, kind of the whole thing, like you can't teach an old dog new tricks, which again, we talk about that limited belief, and that has been ingrained in us. That's one of the early childhood like lines that you'll never forget. You know, you hear that pretty early in life. Well, you can't teach an old dog new tricks, and you just kind of like, and the way it's said is just kind of like you just kind of accept it, you know, and usually kind of you usually hear that from your elders as you're growing up as a kid, and you're like, yeah, I guess you can. I better start learning stuff while I'm young, I guess, you know, and because once I get older, I can't. But that's the cool thing about the online community. I think they kind of reject that thought process. I bet you there's a lot of people who kind of looked at what the information they're getting on the court and go, well, wait a second, I want to learn how to hit like that junior over there. Why won't, and I've had a number of people that I've had conversation with that I've got to know through online will tell me that their coaches actually refuse to teach them that they kind of say, well, you know, you're just not, that's not really for you. You know, you're not going to be able to do that. Yeah.
Yeah, that's brutal, man. I've heard that. I've seen that on courts with kids, you know, and I see the look on the kids' faces afterwards, and it makes me mad, honestly, because if somebody, you know, had told me that as a kid that, oh, well, you know, you'll never amount to anything, or like, how would that make you feel? And to me, it's like you absolutely, you know, with the right belief can bust through that. So sorry to interrupt, but I just wanted to add that in.
No, absolutely. And that's the cool thing about getting testimonials written. I actually talked to some guy on the phone today who has almost all my courses, and he's in his mid 70s. And he said that now that slice serve is really coming off the court. And you know, so it's kind of cool to see people who have maybe no one's taken the time to teach them, you know, how to get their backhand stronger, how to hit a topspin forehand. Then they go online, they're actually able to do it. And it is, as you were saying, also very healthy. I was reading from a psychology book the other day that whole concept too, if you don't use it, you lose it. It's kind of interesting, all these like lines that we hear that we stick to. You know, as you get older, you kind of go, well, if I don't use it, I'm going to lose it. I better use my brain. I better use my body. But it also talked about that it's just not about doing simple tasks. You know, it's just not about, you know, doing a crossword puzzle. They say that they use photography as an example, doing something complex that is challenging, that you maybe don't know, maybe don't trust if you can get it, how important it is as you get older to actually take on, you know, challenges like that. That's what keeps your mind young and sharp. So I thought that was very, very interesting when I read that, and I immediately thought of our online community.
Absolutely. Yeah, I know a lot of these guys are awesome guys. I've had the privilege of, you know, working with some of them, and it's really a cool thing, you know, with the internet now, what we're able to do as a community, and what we can accomplish together. You know, a lot of guys don't want to go out and take lessons for whatever reason. And, you know, getting to be able to be in the privacy of your own home, really watch these videos, study them, and then go out and implement them is such a huge advantage. I mean, we're in such an awesome age in time, you know, if you think about it. So I agree with you. Should we go on to the next?
Yeah, what's number 2?
All right. So this one I've heard like literally at every lesson that I've ever had with no exaggeration. It's my backhand has always been defensive. And, you know, I obviously I empathize with you because this was me for the longest time. And it was always like, you know, I felt pretty good about my forehand, but my backhand was just kind of get it over and hopefully I hit a forehand next, you know? And the reason is, like we know, is because when we first start taking up tennis, we're just having fun hitting the ball around. We just gravitate towards whatever feels natural to us, right? So if for some people that is the backhand, but for I'd say the majority of us, it's the forehand. So we kind of pick up the forehand and we decide we like that shot, we want to hit more of it, and we just kind of forget about the backhand. So obviously, you know, if we're not practicing the backhand, it's not going to get better. It's not going to be an offensive shot. So And the reason, let's see. And so my question would be, has anybody you know ever transformed their backhand from a defensive shot to an offensive shot? Has anybody in the history of tennis ever been able to do this? And the answer is obviously yes. I mean, there's certainly a way to do it. And I'm a firm believer that if somebody can do something, literally we can learn to do it. As long as we have the right blueprint, we follow the right steps, and we model the actions that person took to get there. So, a great example is Roger Federer. You look at him at the beginning of his career, and he obviously had a good backhand, but it was not the weapon that he showed in the Australian Open, where he was just smacking winners in that fifth set, which was just unbelievable. And the reason he was able to do that, obviously, is because he worked on it. He had a clear path towards it, and he was relentless in his pursuit to develop a backhand that was a weapon. So if your backhand is defensive now, excuse me, it doesn't have to stay there. It can certainly get to whatever level that you want it to get to. Like I said, I was 16, I had no athletic ability, and I'm a 5.0 player today with a pretty darn good backhand. And that's just because I'm not special. It's just because I was able to take the systematic steps and follow them and practice them. And if you have the right blueprint, which we're going to give you, you can absolutely do that too. So what do you have to say, Pete?
I think you made a great point on the whole Roger Federer thing. It is amazing to me how he has continued to actually improve in his career. And that all, I think, comes down to mindset more than talent, because he came on many people very early on when he was winning Grand Slam and tournament after Grand Slam tournament started to say, okay, he is the greatest ever. And so, and to get to be the greatest ever, he's already hit millions of balls, and he's already developed a game that is amazing. Like the game to become the greatest ever, you'd figure, okay, now you have a fully developed game. You are the best of all time in many people's minds. And then along comes people like Nadal, who start to show him in head-to-head competition, hey, I can get the better of you. And then as he got older, Djokovic started to get the better of him. And then Murray started to challenge him in some tournaments. And then the young bucks are coming up. And the game has changed since he's started. He started out beating people like Baghdadis to win, and Hewitt and Agassi. And now he's having to play with a completely different field that is younger than him for the most part. They're faster than him. And I think it's kind of like that what's good for the people out there is he said, all right, to keep up, maybe not to, dominate. I think he's all about improvement. It doesn't necessarily have to be, I won the Grand Slam, therefore I improved. I think he is also just along for the journey. That's why he's able to stay in it so long, and that maybe losing a lot of those Grand Slams, like when Borg started to lose to McEnroe, he couldn't take it. He left the game. He's like, if I'm not winning the Grand Slam, I'm a loser. I came in second. I'm out of the game. I can't take this. Where Federer has remained so fresh because he in his mind goes, I'm working on my game. It doesn't necessarily mean that I have to win the tournament to get better. And the people who really study his game, well, it's undeniable. His serve's improved. His backhand's improved. And so it just goes to show us that if we want to get to our next level is not winning the Grand Slam, but looking like, okay, we've been at 3-5. What can I do to get to 4-0? And what do I need to add? And can I do it? And believing that you can do it is very important.
Yeah, absolutely. And you nailed it. I mean, it's knowing that, you're never playing against the other guy, really. You're always playing against the ball. And Federer even came out and said that in his post-match interview. He said he was just able to focus on the ball and focus on his shot. I was watching an interview with Ljubicic, his coach, a few years ago, and Ljubicic asked him, he says, how much of your strategy goes into what the other guy doesn't do well, and how much of it goes into what you do well? And he says, well, it's a good question, and it's a ratio you always want to think about. But he says basically 70-30. If you focus on what you're doing 70% of the time, or at least for him, and you take into account what the other guy's doing, but you're always really focused on what you can do to take your game to the next level. And you're right, is that's how he's able to just continue after people keep telling him like, oh, he's done, he'll never win another one, how he's able to continue to improve and continue to compete at the highest level. So I think that's a really powerful belief for us to take on.
Yeah, before we get to number 3, I actually want to piggyback on something you said, because I think that's important. You know, how he's talking about the ratio. And I think in certain matches and certain people, maybe the ratio goes up and down, to where I think sometimes recreational players, they don't think about their opponents. And, you know, you can say, well, did you realize you played a lefty today? Like, no, I had no idea what handed they were. So
right.
you got to pay attention. But then I think you can also—
Which falls right into your play, I'm sure, as a lefty.
Yeah. I hope they don't notice I'm left-handed. But,
right.
But then I think people fall into the opposite, which I think would be very dangerous. You like look at your opponent like they're a pusher or they do this, and you think, well, if I just do this, I should win. And then you're not really focused on what you have to do and your quality of play, to where when your opponent starts to surprise you and maybe hits a winner when you didn't think they should hit a winner, or they get a ball back that you don't think they should get back, now all of a sudden they're like playing, quote, unfair, or life is not fair for you.
Right.
And you're not focused on what you need to do and what your game is, and leading with your strengths. And so I think you made a very good point there. Did you want to say anything on that before we get into number 3?
I mean, we could talk about this for hours, and I think it would be great. But let's move on, because I think people want us to get on all the 5 points. So let's go to number 3, and this is one that you know really messed with me for a long time. This is, I'm too weak and I need to get stronger. Okay, so this one drives me crazy, because when I was, I'd say 21, I had the privilege of taking lessons with some amazing coaches. I mean, I learned from Rick Macy, who trained Serena Williams and Venus Williams and Roddick, and Robert Lansdorp, who coached Pete Sampras and Maria Sharapova, and Nick Bollettieri. I try and learn from all the great tennis minds. And so I had the privilege of taking some great lessons. Unfortunately, when you try to learn something from everybody, you run into some coaches that are not bad people, but they maybe are misinformed. And this guy told me, I asked him, because I was trying to learn my two-handed backhand, and I said, how can I improve my two-handed backhand? He's like, well, you need to do some curls. And, you know, I thought about that. And basically the translation was, you need to get stronger in order to hit a better backhand. And you know, Rick Macy said, you know, strength can help facilitate a better shot, but it's never the primary reason. And that's why you look at kids who are 8 years old who can hit the crap out of the ball and who are able to, you know, just rifle winners left and right. Clearly, they're not any stronger than you or I, so there's something else going on here, and that is technique. You know, if you have the right technique and you truly understand how power is created and how you can develop a stronger, more accurate, more consistent backhand, then you can do it. And lifting weights and doing strength training and all that stuff is great, but it's really understanding these things. And I want to talk about one thing in specific here. And obviously, it's as you know, Pete, it's a very multi-layered topic, you know, creating power. But the first thing, if I were going to give you something that you could go out and you could implement today, you could go out and start to develop more effortless power. It's really understanding the contact point, right? Because everything that we do before and after the swing is really like icing on the cake. You know, if we have a beautiful backswing and a great follow through, but the racket, you know, we never hit the ball, the ball's not going to go where we want it to go. We'll have zero power, or you'll hit the top of the frame or whatever. So the contact point for me is a very specific point. And I learned this from Tim Schneibly, who is Sam Querrey's coach through the juniors. And he has a whole system that I've kind of melded into my system. And it is the 45-degree angle into the court. So this happens on every single shot, in my opinion. And I've talked to other coaches that believe other things. Totally cool. But if you think about it, the 45-degree angle is perfect in nature. You know, if you look at a 90-degree angle here, the 45 bisects that 90-degree angle. And I just made up the word bisects. I hope it means something. It sounds smart anyway. So, but it is the balancing point between the vertical and the horizontal axis. So what this means is, and you can try this for yourself, you don't have to take my word for it. When you hit the ball with your arm on the 45-degree angle, if you're hitting a one-handed backhand, that means your right arm is on the 45-degree angle and your hips are lined up to the 45-degree angle in a perfect world. And it doesn't always happen that way, but you want to be on the 45-degree angle at contact. And you're going to feel this. And I've got a couple of drills that I'll show in my free training later that'll really help you feel that. But knowing that contact point is like the first major pillar of being able to create effortless power. And everything else that you do is really revolves around getting that contact point right. So, I hear a lot of coaches say, well, you got to hit the ball further out in front, or, wait a little bit longer to go down the line. And that to me is very vague. And when I've done that, and I've done that in the past, I've always felt like I wasn't getting as much power on the ball as I could. So in my experience, and from all the research that these guys that are far smarter than I am have done, your contact point is the number one most important thing when it comes to creating power. Getting back, we got off topic a little bit, but being stronger certainly helps. It can certainly help facilitate a better shot. And I know, Pete, you've got a great course on fitness, and I would encourage you guys. Pete is incredible, and he's got amazing courses. So if you're looking for a product, I'll be creating one here in a couple months too. But check out Pete's course on strength for tennis, because he really understands not just the strength, but how to train for tennis. Because if you go out and you do 1,000,000 bench presses, you may be able to lift 200 pounds, but that's not necessarily going to help you hit the ball any harder. And in fact, it's probably going to hurt your results, because you'll be tighter unless you do a hell of a lot of yoga. So yeah, exercise and working out can certainly help, but it's not the primary factor when it comes to hitting a ball harder. Curious what you think, Pete.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. I think that's very true. And like you said, you look at kids, and so many kids can hit the ball harder than people who are, very, very strong people. You can. I know that I have a kid who's 10 years old. If we took a muscle man out of the gym and then we had him hit a ball, I know that the 10-year-old would hit the ball way harder, because he's just got really good timing. He's very efficient with his body, and he knows where he needs to strike the ball, and that's very important. I think also, especially when you're thinking about the one-hander as far as for strength too, is you look at, and I think maybe at a certain age there is certainly where it might be tougher to develop that one-hander than a two-hander. But look at Justine Henin. I mean, she has one of the best backhands pound for pound you're ever going to see. Tiny little girl. That she's strong, but I think especially when you also get into just not the general of like, I need to be stronger to hit a better backhand, but when the ball goes up higher, people think I need to be stronger to make that shot. And you see people always try and like fight the ball up there, and they tend to bat it down rather than just going with the wave. The ball's this high, but it doesn't mean that you can't come over the ball. You can still, even on a one-hander, you can still come over a ball this high at your shoulder, and you also shouldn't fight it down. That's one of the biggest things I see people do. The ball's up high, I have no power, I can't do anything, and they like try and fight the ball down rather than still rising up with that shot.
I call it the beaver slap. They try and kind of swat at it.
Yeah, a lot of people fight that thing down, and they think, well, once it gets above my shoulder, I have no strength, especially as a one-hander, and there's no way you can hit a toss and backhand there, and you actually can. The strike zone for a one-hander as far as height is actually a lot higher than you think it is to come over the ball. Now, I think with the two-hander, you certainly have more advantage the higher it goes. You definitely have, certainly adding that other hand does make a difference. But I think you're exactly right where people do consider that strength is an issue for them, that's why they can't hit a certain type of backhand. And especially certain types of balls, they think that they were like, well, higher ball I can crush on my forehand, but there's just no way I can do that on the backhand, and it is not true. So good point there. What's I believe we're up to number 4. Am I right?
Yeah, we're cruising right along, and so number 4 is that's fine. I just run around it. You know, I run around my backhand, I hit a forehand. Well, first of all, if you're on this call right now, you're dialing in specifically to learn how to hit a backhand. This probably isn't you, but I've talked to a lot of people who do say this. And so my question is always, you know, how's that working out for you? You know, if you're running around every ball and you're doing great and you're happy with that, you wouldn't be on this call. But if you are, cool. You know, that's totally fine. And there's definitely not something that we say that has to be like the only way to enjoy tennis is if you have a great backhand. And if you don't have a great backhand, you're never going to enjoy tennis. And that's just not true. So, but my thought is at some point, you know, and I know we don't want to think about this, but at some point, everybody slows down. You know, Father Time is undefeated. And at some point, we are going to lose foot speed, period. You know, there's no way around it. And even the guys that, you know, are 100 years old and are still playing tennis, you know, they're just not as fast as they used to be. And there's nothing wrong with that. What that means is that we have to be able to adapt. We have to find a way to take our game to the next level like Federer did. And he had a great forehand, he had a great back or serve, but he knew if he was going to continue to climb, he was going to have to adapt and he was going to have to learn a way to hit a great backhand. And that's exactly what he did. So, you know, it's not a long-term solution to just continue to run it around every ball. Now, am I saying don't run around your forehand ever or don't run around your backhand ever? Of course not. You know, if you strategically, if your forehand's a better shot and you can run around it, absolutely. You know, that's Nadal made a career out of that. And you can do that too. But you might as well add a few tools to the toolbox. You know, if you're going to continue to play tennis and you want to continue to play at a high level and continue to take your game to the next level, then you're certainly going to want to play with two hands. You want to play on each side. So curious, what do you think, Pete?
Well, I think that's a good point. I do think that more rec players should look to run around and hit forehands, but you cannot. And I think too, when people say, "Well, yeah, I can do it though, because I just play double, so I can really just protect and hide my backhand," and that to me is again maybe someone who goes, I'm not hungry to get to the next level, because you might be able to do it with a certain amount of people to where you can play a match and they can't find your backhand. But as you play better players, they will figure out a way to find your backhand. You know, if someone is a good player, even if you like to run around everything, they will figure out a way to find your backhand. Trust me. Just like, look, and the pros are a perfect example. I mean, sometimes they will run out into the doubles alley to hit a forehand, but they still have got to hit a ton of backhands. And so there is no avoiding it. Even if your strategy is to run around and hit a lot of forehands, good players at that next level that you're not at, they will find your backhand. Trust me, they will be able to do it. So it is something that if you do want to keep improving, which I think is the whole idea, that's the most fun thing for me about tennis, is not being able to go out there and say, well, I win every match I play, or everybody I hit with is better, I'm better than. It's about that constant journey of how can I make the ball just feel a little better off my frame today? Can I learn a new shot? And even me, which I shouldn't even say even me, because in the relative tennis world, I stink compared to so many people. A lot of people might look at me and go, well,
I think you smell great, by the way.
Yeah. A lot of people might look at me and go, well, you look like you're a pretty good player. But I mean, compared to so many people, I'm just not very good. And so,
by the way, I don't mean to
get better.
I don't want to interrupt you, man, but I just want to add one word to everything that we've been saying so far. And this is such a powerful word that when you add this word to any thought that you have that isn't serving you, it changes the game. So it's too late for me, or it's yet. The word is yet. Mm-hmm. So I'm not able to hit a backhand yet. I'm too weak. I need to get stronger. Well, maybe that's true, and you can't hit a great backhand yet, but that word yet really allows your brain to open up and be able to be open to the fact that maybe you can do this. Maybe you can go out and you can develop a great backhand, and if you keep that mindset, I think it'll really help you when you're on the practice court And you know, and maybe it's you're playing that one guy or that one team that always gives you hell, and damn, I can't seem to beat that team yet. And if you add that word yet, I swear to God, it changes. I know we're not into like the whole mental game on this, but I think it ties in to everything we're talking about today, about these myths and these beliefs, you know, that so many people that I've talked to have. And so I just wanted to add that in. So you might not be at that level. You know, maybe you want to be a 4.0, you want to be a 4.5, and you're not there yet. You know, so just continue to kind of keep that in mind. I think that'll really help you.
That's very good. All right. Well, we got one more. Tell us what number 5 is.
All right. So number 5 is I get jammed, you know, and you know, or it's a matter of positioning, right? And this happened to me like crazy. I mean, I was trying to hit the ball. I looked like a Tyrannosaurus Rex out there. It was brutal. And it was because, like we said, you start with the forehand, you get comfortable with the forehand, and the backhand's kind of an afterthought. And so the reason this is because most of us, if we're right-handed, Pete, if you're left-handed, you are that side dominant normally, right? So if we're right-handed, normally we're right side dominant. That means we prefer to use the right side of our body as much as possible. And for whatever reason, when the ball comes to our opposite side, we're just not as adept at learning how to get into that position and hit a good shot. The good news is this can be learned. You know, I remember like I was the T-Rex guy out there. I was batting every ball like this, and some guy, I forget who it was now, showed me this one exercise that literally transformed my ability to get into a great position. And it's a thing you got to practice, right? It's not like, you know, I can just give you a magic pill and all of a sudden you're in great position, because so much of it is being able to read the oncoming ball, being able to anticipate what shot might come next, and then knowing, you know, with the angle that the ball is coming in, how to get into that perfect position. And what in the world is the perfect position? So once you know that and you're able to kind of work on that step by step, your positioning will improve. And as your positioning gets better, your balance will improve, your shot itself will be better, and everything kind of comes to that. So if you're thinking that you get jammed, you're absolutely right that it's a critical skill, and you got to be able to get in the right position, and knowing how to do that is a really valuable thing. So what do you think, Pete?
I think jammed is huge. I think so many people get jammed on the backhand. I think I'm actually going to use the board here because I have a good drill for that. And today I put a video out on getting jammed on the backhand with one of my students.
Oh, awesome.
Peter sees this. Just a regular average high school player. He's not a, you know, hot shot junior who's going to go to the nationals or anything like that. So I think you can relate to the lesson. But here's one thing that I think you could do, because when I teach people the forehand and how to avoid getting jammed, you can easily show them that, hey, if you extend your arm out, we call this the measuring stick, you can have the ball away, make sure it doesn't go under the arm. That will kind of tell you're too close. On the backhand, it's not as easy. So if you can go out there with a ball machine or a friend throwing you underhand balls, I think that would be the best. And get yourself right on the tee here and move to, let's say, you know, right over here. If you come this way, this would be your backhand. You hit the backhand. Move far enough over here to where when you swing, your arms can be fully extended, that there is no bend or jam as Ramon is talking about, and just have that ball come right up the center so you can always measure, because I think it's very hard to measure when you're too close. And I know that in your training, you also have some good drills as well, but that's just one actual tip besides just kind of pumping you guys up mentally that you can do it. That's one drill you can actually go out there and do today off today's call.
Yeah, I want to add to that. That's a great drill, by the way, and I'm gonna try that with my students. The drill that I was talking about, I'll give you kind of a glimpse into it, and it really helps to see it. So if you're interested in this kind of stuff and you want to find a way to incorporate this into your backhand and really start hitting the shot better, we'll have a training you can grab for free at the end of this webinar. So definitely stay on for that. But the drill is, if you just start with your hands kind of in front of your body, and this is such an important thing, you know, when you start to talk about creating power, you know, I'll get into more of this later, but that it's really about creating a coil and creating tension in your body. And it's like that slingshot effect that really allows the the power to come through effortlessly. But you just start with your hands in front of your body. If you're doing a two-hander, you can do that. And what you do is you have a friend go toss you a ball, or you can set up a ball machine, and you want to just turn, keeping your hands in front. You just kind of mosey on over to the ball, and you slowly extend your hands away from your body along that 45-degree angle that we're talking about. It might be kind of tough to visualize this now, so if you want this, definitely grab the video. But you want to move slowly along that 45, and you're going to slowly reach out to the ball and just literally let the ball just tap your strings. Just go in and let that ball just fall into your sweet spot. And when you do that slowly, methodically, in a controlled way. Not only are you learning the spacing and you're learning that positioning, but you're setting yourself up for the rest of the system that I teach, which is really about creating that power. And there's a lot of layers to it. But yeah, so and if you're doing the one-hander, same thing. You just move out, keep your hands in front, go move to the ball, and then slowly reach out along that 45 and let the ball just deaden into the middle of your strings. So you're not trying to hit the ball over, you're just literally finding that contact point. And that'll really help you with positioning. And you can do that at any time. So
very cool. So there you go, guys. That's all 5. And if you like today's training, you're absolutely going to love what we have for you next. What we're going to do to finish, because I do realize that, everybody's got a busy life here, and we've been going for 46.
I wish we could just talk about tennis all day. This would be awesome.
Yeah,
but
absolutely. But we've been going for 46 minutes strong, so we realize that probably some people might be getting hungry, or might be hungry to go play some tennis. So we're going to end this pretty soon, but I'm going to put in the link. So if you look at the chat box next to the video, I'm going to now put there to where you can grab the free train. You'll see on one side it's got a picture of Ramon there, and he's got the two-handed training, and I've got the one-handed training. And so and I'm also going to go look at the page now, and any questions you have. I noticed we have some questions. We're going to answer those. And if anybody else out there has been holding their questions back, now's a great time to put that in the chat. And I'm going to go get the link. And while I'm getting the link, why don't you tell them what your free training's all about?
Cool. First, I want to thank you guys for being on this call. I mean, this is so much fun. I love doing this stuff. And I want to thank you guys for taking time out of your busy day to come in and listen to this. So hopefully it was a lot of value for you. And what I want to do for you is I've put together a training for the two-handed backhand that will show you step by step, a 3-step process of how you can master your two-handed backhand. I've also put together for you a video on how to watch the ball, because I think a lot of coaches, and you've heard this, Pete, I'm sure, is you've heard coaches say, you got to watch the ball. And that's true, but we've never actually broken it down and saying, how do you watch the ball? What do you mean watch the ball? What does that even mean? So in this video, I show you how to do that, and in a way that will allow you to make more consistent contact and hit the ball a lot harder. And then I've also put together for you a PDF of Novak Djokovic's backhand and the 5 key positions that he gets into every single time. And really, you can see this across the board, the 5 critical elements that allow him to probably have one of the best two-handed backhands in the game. So you can have that. It's all for free. And I put together new videos for you every week. I have a lot of fun making them. So you'll be on my email list. You'll get my calls or my emails automatically. And you're welcome to grab that. And I look forward to talking to you soon.
Very cool. Awesome. So that link is there, guys. You can go grab it. And also, we did have some questions. Now, the first person on today, on early, was Wildfire. Wildfire was on.
I love that name.
That's great. And Wildfire is 56 and says, I can only return high balls to my backhand with topspin. Is there a way to return a high ball with more offense? I guess meaning flattening that ball out, which would be interesting. I have a two-handed backhand, by the way. So that's actually a great ball you can crush. So do you want to take that, since you're kind of training the two-hander? How could you crush a two-handed high ball?
So the short answer is you clear the shelf. If you think about where the contact point is, Wildfire, is you want to imagine like a plane. you know, and what you're trying to do, and the picture that I like is a shelf that you're trying to clear, or like snow that you're pushing off the top of a car. That's the swing path you're going to want, because that's going to allow you to flatten that ball out and really crush it. You've already got the height over the net, so you want to flatten the swing path out first, assuming that it's about shoulder high. If it's above your head, typically you're either doing a leaping backhand or you're slicing it down. But let's assume it's like a shoulder level ball. And then the second part is the power that you're going to get, Wildfire, is really from the coil. You know, it's not from swinging harder. You know, you don't swing any harder. What you do is you create tension in your body, and you do that. It's kind of a complicated situation. We've got a ton of videos on this that you should check out. But I guess the short answer would be flatten it out. And, and the longer answer would be understand how your body creates power on the backhand. And that's from understanding the contact point, like we talked about, like where you want to make contact. That's from understanding how to create the coil in your body. And it's about staying loose, and it's about timing. So hopefully that helps. I think the short answer is really prepare the racket on the level of the ball, swing across, clear the shelf, and then start to add the other elements like the coil and stuff.
I have one too that can help too. I love this drill. I have, especially when people just kind of like keep blooping top spins. They tend to come up like this a lot. So what I will have people do is when they swing, and I don't know how much of how much you can see of me here, but I have people finish with what I call the triangle finish, meaning that when they're done, their chest to their arms create a triangle. And so if you do that, you'll definitely flatten out and crush a ball. So focus on the triangle finish. Try and hold it for a couple seconds. Again, I love when people can just kind of feed you the ball underhand, or you get a ball machine, or maybe you toss the ball against the wall, and then you hold that triangle finish, and you will find that you will crush the ball. All right, let's go to the next next question. Mike has asked, he has been very active on this chat, so we definitely want to make sure that we answer his. He goes, well, why did we switch from the one-hander to two-hander? We kind of went through that. I switched because I was just a coach and always had a bunch of balls in my hand. Do you want to just kind of answer that one quickly?
Yeah, Mike, thanks for the question. It's because basically out of perceived necessity, I was getting beat on my serve return. My one-hander, I was shanking a lot of balls, and one day just got fed up and just decided, you know, maybe it'd be easier to just try a two-hander. And you know, so that was the reason. Are you thinking about switching too?
I don't. We'll see if he chimes in again. But then he also had another follow-up, which I thought this is a good one. I'll start and then you finish. Advantages and disadvantages of a one-hander compared to a two-hander. And I think people were kind of on the fence. They kind of go, well, if I do make the switch, you know, what are my advantages going to be? So I think for people who tend to feel tight and just kind of icky with the two-hander, the one-hander, once you get it, can feel a lot more free. That's one thing. You can get a lot more reach. I think it starts to become easier to get more of a feel for the topspin and then the slice. So I think it's more for those people who really have good feel and want to feel more free. And that's a big advantage for the one-hander and reach. But now today, with all these pros now going with the open stance backhand on the two-hander, that reach to me is in debate as far as that advantage, because it's very hard to do an open stance one-hander. It can be done, but it's not easy. What do you think there?
Yeah, advantage of the one-hander to me is like versatility, right? I mean, if you're used to having one hand on the racket, it's going to be easier for you to release and kind of hit that chip, you know, or if you come into the net a lot, it's not as big of a shift. You know, a lot of people, when they're really learning the two-handed backhand and now they get up to the net and you want to start volleying with one hand, it's a little more foreign. I would say the return to serve, I would say the advantage goes to the two-hander in general, because, you know, you got two hands on the racket, you know, it feels a little more solid. You tend to be more connected to your body with two hands. And you can kind of, to me, it's easier to steer the ball where you want it to go. So you can really get good at either one, and it's more of a personal preference of what you like. But those are some of the things that I would say. Disadvantage to the two-hander, like you said, is your reach. You know, you if you're stretching out wide, typically you're going to go to one hand anyway. You know, slice unless you're ridiculously flexible like Djokovic. But yeah, that's what I would say.
Absolutely. All right, very good. And let's see, do we have one more question? Was how do I handle a high ball or a ball that is close to you with a one-handed backhand? So I kind of answered that, Robert. I don't know if you answered, if you heard that answer or if you asked this before or after. But with the high ball, when it comes to the one-hander, I think you do want to make that decision as far as, are you going to swing up on the ball and still hit topspin, or are you going to chip down? That is another advantage of the one-hander. As it gets higher, being able to switch to that chip, although I think in general, people with two hands can handle a lot higher ball, but you'll see those really good one-handers. They notice that the ball is going to be coming up high, and then they're going to step in there and kind of chip down on the ball. And I think the biggest decision you have to make when you're seeing that high ball come is decide, you know, how are you going to approach that? Because you have to make a clear decision there. You can't start off with topspin in the last second, switch to slice, or vice versa. You have got to know if you're going to kind of come down and block down on it, or maybe you're going to take the ball on the way up and still kind of be going up with the ball. And so that's kind of the biggest thing I think you want to decide. And to me, if I can back up and still have the ball come down, I will probably most likely back up and still come over the ball. But if I realize that if backing up, even though I back up all the way to the fence, that ball will still be rising, that's where I might stand in there and block down on it and chip, because you don't want to be backing up. You can even still hit a good one-hand topspin. You don't want to do this, but you know, I can be off my back foot and still come up and hit a nice one-hander, where I can't do that on the slice. Once you have to lean over to the one-hander and have all your weight on your back foot, it's over. You're going to hit a duck slice. So you've got to be able to like stand your ground and dig into the ball if you're going to hit a chip shot. So that's all I have. Those are all the questions there.
And just to add on what you said, Pete, the decision is so key. I can't stress that enough. If you see the ball coming and you're like waiting until the ball kind of bounces and you're deciding, you know, what should I do with this ball? Like you said, it's over. It's too late. Mm-hmm. You have to know, and you have to be able to anticipate what you want to do with the ball, because that's going to dictate everything that you do leading up to the shot. So that was a great point. Just wanted to add on to that.
Cool. Very good. Couple of things. Glenn asked, do we offer clinics in Colorado? Well, maybe you get a group out there. We'll come out there for you, Glenn. But yeah. In general, I teach in Atlanta and you teach in California, correct?
Yeah, absolutely. But we'll definitely, we'll have to put something together for that. Yeah.
Yeah. And then let's see, Bob has, this will be our last question, and then we're going to go off because I do like to keep them to an hour. What grip do you recommend on the one-handed backhand? And so if you're going to hit topspin, oh my gosh, I actually have a racket over here. What a tennis nerd I am.
You and me both, man. I think we all are on this call, obviously.
So can they see that pretty good? Because I'm looking at the chat. Can you see that, Ramon, pretty good there?
Yeah.
Yes or no? Okay, cool. Let me know if the visual ever gets bad. So what I like, and this to me, because you mentioned people being weak on their backhand.
Bring it up. Just
this to me is
bring it up just a little, Pete, like up around your shoulder. There you go.
Yeah. To me, usually people have a weak backhand, not because of strength, because they usually have a weak grip and they kind of hit like this. Okay. So turning over what I like to call the motorcycle grip. So like I'm taking my knuckles right there, and now I feel a lot more strength to be coming and rolling the ball. Motorcycle grip, I like for the one-hander. I can actually see my knuckles right there. As I go like this, it looks completely different, and I'm a lot weaker. So get that motorcycle grip. You can basically just hold out your racket like that and grab and pretend like you're going to go on your Harley there. Although I don't recommend that you get on the motorcycle. They're too dangerous.
I love that, man. And I'm definitely going to borrow that one. I'll give you credit, of course, but the motorcycle grip is awesome. I love that.
Yeah. All right, guys. So I'm going to put the link one more time. People said great advice. Wildfire loved your clean the shelf advice for him. I put the link in one more time. Do you want to tell us, Ramon, where we can find you more often online?
Yeah, so definitely, if you like this kind of stuff and you want to see my videos, like I said, they're a little bit wacky. You know, there's some crazy stuff I do. It's a lot of fun. I love making them. You should check out my YouTube channel, Ramon Osa. Just type in Ramon Osa. You can find me there. And if you want to check out my website, it's www.osatennis360.com. So I got a lot of stuff for you there. You can check out some videos, peruse around, and so you can find me right there.
All right. So all you guys who stuck around to the end, we appreciate you. We had a good turnout today, and a good number of people stuck around to the end. So we're proud of you. Good luck with your tennis. Definitely sign up for the free training. And we are going to end this broadcast.
And thank you, Pete, for doing this, man. I really appreciate it. This is a lot of fun. You know, we should do it again.
It was a lot of fun. We'll definitely do it again.
All right. Thanks, guys. Appreciate the time and the attention, and look forward to seeing you soon.
3, 2, 1, bye.